This is Privateer. My name is Henry Wotton and this is the Intrepid Hippo Sailing Channel. I returned from my adventures in the Pacific on Hippolyta a couple of years ago and I've been cataloguing them on this channel. Since then I've been back at work, but I've still been dreaming about that next big adventure. With this in mind, last year I applied for and achieved a starting place in the Golden Globe race in 2026. This is a non-stop, solo and amateur race around the globe with no electronics and with classic boats. Last summer I bought Privateer and together we are taking that challenge on. The first hurdle was that Privateer lived in Massachusetts and I lived in Scotland. Join me at the beginning of this journey to one of the toughest challenges still out there.
SAS, Sun Country, Swiss.
Well, good morning from Newburyport. This is just in Massachusetts, just north of Boston, and I have flown over, got in last night to pick up Privateer Cape George 36, which is the boat that I'm going to do the Golden Globe in. So this is a new series of videos. That's going to chronicle my trip back to Scotland, where I'm going to park the boat, and my trip to the Golden Globe in 2 years' time. So this is the beginning of something big, and I'm looking forward to seeing the boat. Well, here we are, we got here. And I think that's her in the slip there, so we're going to have a look. It's a pretty sultry Massachusetts day, quite heavy cloud and really muggy, so I expect we're going to get some rain, but that's fine because most of the work I need to do is inside the boat. But that is so exciting. So there she is. She's a Cape George 36 cutter, so she's 36 foot long in the hull, and then she's got a 4 or 5 foot bowsprit made out of white oak, with that big Genoa or Yankee sail at the front. But she's in really good condition. She's really well equipped. But you can see she's an absolute beast. She's got this full keel. So although she's 36 foot, she weighs nigh on 12 tons. All very exciting. Hopefully she'll go in on the high tide today, and then I'll be good to start getting her ready to go. So a full day on the boat, just learning all of the systems so I know them inside out, because it's a new boat to me. And then, believe it or not, this will be full of water, and then we'll be back on the Merrimack River and ready to go out to the Gulf of Maine. Well, I've got the boat in the water, and now I've got to get her ready to go. She's looking pretty good, but as you can see, the plan now is to get all the kit understood by me, checked, and then good to go for a long passage. Normally you have years to plan for this, or months. I've got pretty much 6 days to get going. I'm due back in work on the 26th of August, so I've got to get moving. and I'm just checking the sails and some of the safety gear out of the forepeak, out of the sail locker. The Yankee, the staysail, and then obviously the main is underneath the stack pack at the moment on this enormous boom, and that'll get done during sea trial as well. So what we've got out of the locker to check today is we've got this here. This is the trysails. This sail is a loose-footed main that gets run up the separate track and then doesn't go on the boom, but just gets loose-footed down to the corner there. And that's the sort of the main sail for storm sailing. It's not on the boom, so it's got less power to sort of slam the boom around and create damage that way. But also it balances the boat. So if in a storm I needed to actually make to windward and tack to get off a lee shore or something, you would normally need that balance. Generally speaking, if you've got the sea room to run downwind, so away from the wind, you just have your little scrap of storm sail out, and my storm sail would go on this inner forestay. So currently I've got the staysail on there, but ultimately this is the storm sail, which is much smaller and tougher, so that would just get run up, and then you just run away under that if the weather gets bad enough. So 2 storm sails in good condition, all ready to go. All the sheets are in there. Inevitably I'm going to get duffed up at some point on this passage, so that's key. But the sort of last case scenario, so like the ejection seat, if you will, if everything's going really tits up, is this. So this is a Jordan series drogue. This is actually an ocean brake. Basically these big shackles here, there's a big bridle, and they go on these special chain plates there. So I'd actually mounted these chain plates to Hippolyta in Tahiti. So Hippolyta, my old boat, which was much smaller, I had a set of those, albeit not quite as beefy. So you mount the bridle to either end of the stern, and it comes back in a Y and then fits to the main drogue. And what you've effectively got is, we'll start from the other end, what you do is you fit about a 10 kilogram weight to the far end of the drogue. So you put sort of your spare anchor or some weight on this end to drag it underwater to make sure it doesn't skip along the surface. So you really want it to be down at an angle down under the water. Basically what you do is you just run away from the wind, and the drogue both keeps you slowed down but also pulls the bow back off the crest of waves, so waves that are big enough to perhaps throw the boat over itself. This will keep you back, and in the right conditions it should stop the boat surfing too fast down waves. So that's the sea drogue. Moving on to like better things, better weather. This is the spinnaker, which is really good to see that. I think, so this says tack and foot, and then the other side says leech. So I think it's asymmetric, which means this end goes on the bowsprit and then this end flies off to one side. Asymmetric spinnakers can't go as far downwind, but for a single-handed sailor they're much easier to handle because you don't have to necessarily use the pole. The use of the pole involves a lot of lines, and collapsing it and just dealing with it if the wind gets up or whatever as a solo sailor is much more difficult. So I will need symmetrical spinnakers by the time I get to the Golden Globe, but for now it's just good to have the more easily handled one. And in terms of ease of handling, this thing here, this sock, is fantastic. So yeah, I've dug out the spare sails and it's all pretty encouraging. Now just to tidy it all away again and get down to the boat systems. One of the great advantages of this boat is its old-fashioned layout. So up at the front, rather than a big double bed, You've got lots of space for sails, lines, and there's even a workshop bench which you can do repairs on. That's the sails all the way. And now, on with the boat. Well, it's the morning of day 3 and we're on steering systems this morning. I need to check that the autopilots work. So, Privateer has 3 autopilots, and obviously they're absolutely mission critical for me as a solo sailor because I can't helm 24/7. So I want the boat to be sailing herself. So the 3 systems we've got are this contraption on the back is a wind vane. It's a monitor wind vane. So this is the wind paddle. At the moment, the paddle is pointing directly into the wind, which is coming from that direction. So it stands up straight. When it stands up straight, you can see that the rudder at the bottom is straight. Okay? When it blows the paddle over, because the wind's not directly at it anymore, through this connection here, and then you can see what the rudder's doing as well. When we're moving, that turn of the rudder will force the whole arm up, which moves the tiller. I've got this heavy duty pelagic autopilot, which goes on this bracket here and basically pushes and pulls the tiller with this arm. But this is an upgraded control unit, and you can see where it's come off down there. So I need to install it and check that it works, because that's my sort of main backup to the wind system. Alright, well, let's give it a go. Not the healthiest noise I've ever heard out of a machine. So, morning of day 4, cleaning out the water tanks in the boat. She's got a really good setup. So, along the keel here, so the sides of the hull come in like that, and then you've got tanks along the keel, and there's 3 water tanks. The aft tank with 2 access hatches here, the mid tank just above the mast, and then the forward tank up there. And basically, I've got the access hatches open. What I'm doing is I'm draining them, anything is in there. And then once I've drained them, I'll get my hand in and try and scrub out as much sediment as possible. And they get flushed through a couple of times with this flushing solution, which is sort of chlorine. This tank here has been finished. You can see it sort of goes down there. You have to fill them through the access hatch. So although it would be nice to fill them through sort of a deck pump out, that's the sort of smartest solution, but it's not so good for offshore because it means that you've got a common entry into all the tanks, whereas what I've got here is 3 independent tanks, and it's very smartly set up. Under here you can see you've got the 3 tanks come in, and I can just turn them on or off, and when they're off they're disconnected from each other. So the big worry is that if you have a tank gets contaminated by seawater or leaks out, if you're all connected, you lose everything, whereas 3 independent tanks, 3 levels of redundancy. So it's quite a busy job, quite small access hatches, and obviously my arms are massive because I'm so strong and go to the gym so often. So it's a bit fiddly, but getting there and enjoying the lovely weather on the Merrimack River today. It's rather beautiful. So I've now been here it's Friday now, I've been here since Monday. I was hoping to have left by today, but I always knew there's a bit of a pipe dream. So sea trial on Monday, and hopefully leave Tuesday or Wednesday, and that gives me 27 days to get across before I need to be back at work. Right, it's exciting stuff. It's sea trial time. Just while the engine's warming up, I'm going to talk you through. The issue is that I've got to get off this dock on my own, which is fine because I'm just doing it at the tail of the ebb, so the tide is still flowing outwards. So when I let go, I should just drift backwards, and then I can just go out forwards. When I come back, that's going to be the difficulty. Well, we've got out into some deeper water away from the boat. I've got the wind vane set up, so the wind vane is now steering with a trickle of power, and now I'm going to unfurl the sail and we'll see where we are. As I go, I pull the sheet in. Well, it's been a heavy few days. Had a day yesterday after the sea trial. It was just raining, so I got quite a lot of stuff inside done, but didn't do much filming. It's a bit dank and dark, but it's come the time for me to go up the mast. I need to go and have a look at it anyway before I go and look at all the fittings, all the rig, the halyards at the top to check they're not chafing. I also need to put this radar reflector up on the, just above the middle, the second spreader, so in between the second and the first and second spreader on the wire. So I'll just take these tools up. It's a radar reflector, Allen keys, pliers, screwdrivers of both types. Here they are. Well, that's the mast done. Everything's good up there. I've got the radar reflector, you can just see it just there. So that's fine. Now I've just got to carry on. I'm just clearing out the whole boat, drying out and then repacking. And that's hopefully to leave tomorrow, so Wednesday, or possibly the Thursday. So I'm going to go provisioning this afternoon. Well, here we are, it's day 8. It's Wednesday and I'm leaving first thing tomorrow morning, and it's provisioning day. I've been stressed enough with the boat and bits and bobs that I never sat down and really thought it through. So I just sort of went on instinct, which is a mistake. So you end up with far too much stuff for one person. But there it is. Got soaked on the way in. Boat's a bit wet because I left the port lights open, and the rain in New England seems to be very thick, if rain can be thick. Yeah, then the boat's pretty much good to go, and then it's just about me getting my laundry done. Got the waste guy coming to pump out the waste tank. The waste tank empties into the sea, but because it's not been used over the winter, it might be compacted at the bottom. You may think that that's a fairly unpleasant topic of conversation, but I can assure you it's a lot more unpleasant having to do plumbing at sea with waste tanks and black water, so definitely want to get done. But just trying to dodge in between the showers here. Trying to remember as well all of the bits that made me happy when I was last at sea, what little bits of food I need, various phases. And I do remember very distinctly that little packets of Oreos were absolutely key to morale. Well, there we go, all unpacked. So, provisioning is a bit of a dark art, and I'm not very good at it because I'm not very organised. So, here is the cheap's way to provisioning in my mind, that sort of relies upon a very selfish solo sailor attitude, where I just eat what I want when I want. But the way I keep safe is this. So that is enough canned food for the whole trip. So I start off with enough canned food, then everything else is just a bonus, and I can eat it as fast or as slowly as I want, and if fresh food goes off, it's not a problem. That's the baseline. And then everything else is just stuff which I have learnt that is good offshore. So the key things are easy to make, glucose hit, and lots of snacks if I can't cook because I'm tired or the weather's too bad for me to fire up the stove. Oreos, got some gummy sweets and some Skittles. This is breakfast, so we've got home some muesli packets and some Quaker oats. We like those because they come in paper bags. Cliff bars, some of those will go in my go bag, which I'll explain about later. Some trail mix, and these fruit pots are great. Lots of glucose, and often you just need to chow one of those down if you need a bit of a energy hit, and also obviously keeps the vitamins up because I'll run out of fresh food pretty quickly. Tortilla chips, which go with my other snack, which is a whole ton of hummus and guacamole in the fridge. Just really easy, really quick, have it with salad, just do whatever with it. So that's what I've got there. And then at the back we've got our pot noodle equivalents. So that's plenty of snacks for when I'm feeling sick over the first 5 days before I get over my seasickness, and also just for sort of lunches and bits and bobs. Fresh food and carbs and that sort of thing. I've got all of the fruit and veg in 2 boxes. Rice, which can just be put straight in the saucepan and heated up. Some cherry tomatoes, some peppers. So that's sort of the fresh food, or the fresh fruit and veg. Pasta sauce, bread. Bread's a bit of a difficult one. Bread overseas, outside of the UK, tends to be quite sweet and fairly nasty. But wraps last forever and taste the same all over the world, so that's good. And then moving on to the sort of refrigerated stuff, which it's got some burgers, some sirloin steak tips, sausages, meatballs, loads of bacon. You get big packs of bacon here, a couple of packets of minced beef, some ribeye steaks for the halfway treat, and then we've got sliced cheese, sliced meat for the wraps, and some guacamole at the back, some Philadelphia, and then just sort of, because I'm outfitting this boat from scratch, some condiments. The reason I've got the decaf is not because I don't like coffee, because when I'm feeling seasick, if you want a hot drink, the last thing you want to do is put more stimulant into your nervous system, because seasickness is your nervous system basically disagreeing with your visual cues, and then your body voiding, vomiting, because from an evolutionary perspective it thinks you're being poisoned because you've got that disassociation. It thinks you've eaten some sort of poisoned berries or whatever. That's what makes you seasick, and given that it's a nervous system freaking out, the last thing you want to do is putting stimulants into it, because that'll just make the nervous system freak out even more. So decaffeinated coffee, critical. So I just thought I'd talk you through the emergency actions on, because I'm packing the go bag at the moment. So the go bag is the bag that I would grab if I had to exit the boat in a hurry. So if she was going down or going over, or I was going to abandon ship, which she wouldn't do unless things were very, very grim, because it's always better to be with the boat. But I've got a lightweight life raft there, so, and up there I've got the EPIRB, so that's the satellite beacon, which will last for about a week and bring search and rescue to me. So in order, I'll be wearing my life jacket if things are bad enough for that, and that's got another beacon inside it. But basically the order I would take things is I'd take the EPIRB, whatever happened, the life raft would be next, the life jacket would be on, and then in order, the next thing I'd take was the go bag. And in the go bag I've got snacks, I've got the complete works of Shakespeare in a small book that will go in there in case I'm in the life raft for a while. I've got a flares and also a solar blanket in there. I have also got a emergency full weather dry suit. If things were really grim, I'd put that on, but it won't be in the go bag, it will go on before. And then lastly, I'd grab those 2 yellow ones, will be spare water. The last thing I'd grab, which will live up here right by the life raft, is 20 litres of water. So if I had time to do all of that, I'd end up in the life raft with food and water to keep me alive for at least 3 weeks. Something to read, comms, solar blanket to keep me warm. I should be in the emergency dry suit anyway, and flares. So that's the plan. If I get out with all of that, I'll be fine. finally reached the inflection point of needing to go, having most of the jobs done, and feeling confident that I've done everything that I can. And so starting to get ready for slipping the lines and departing. To be honest, I'm quite apprehensive, and I can say this to the camera because there's no way that this YouTube video, if it comes out, can be released before I'm home safe, and I don't have to put on a front for family and friends and stuff that I'm absolutely fine. I am quite terrified, frankly. It's a brand new boat. It's kind of a step into the unknown. Last time I did this, the boat was very familiar to me. I'd done a lot of miles in it already with a friend, and so I was just sort of carrying on my own. But this is a step into the unknown. And yeah, no, I'll admit it, it's just scary. It's just like, I feel a bit sick. But that's fine. I think that apprehensiveness is a part of this adventure, and it's part of the, I suppose it's part of the sort of prudent planning. If you don't feel apprehensive about what you're about to do, then maybe you haven't thought it through. You know, there's a lot that can go wrong, but I've mitigated against most of those circumstances. One of the issues is that you're never ready to go. You've literally just got to go. You've got to take that decision and just go. You back yourself into a corner by telling everyone you're going to do it, arranging the time off work. Key part of the plan is I sail this boat back alone across the North Atlantic now. So subconsciously, and it's an illogical thought, well, it's an emotion, you feel quite trapped. I feel quite trapped by the plan. I can't back out, I've got to go. And there's a fear to that. Hopefully a healthy fear, but it is a fear, and I can admit that on this. But just got to grit my teeth, get going, get into the rhythm, get seasick, spend 3 or 4 days seasick, then I'll be out of the Gulf and I'll be in my rhythm. I'll have my rhythm all squared, and I'll just truck across the Atlantic and it'll be easy. So that's the plan. But I just need to be wary of my mental health whilst I'm going across, and I'm not trying to sound like a pretentious influencer when I say that, but you know, it's on my own in an uncertain environment. It's the most difficult passage I've ever done, and I've got to have my wits about me and make sure that I'm making the right decisions. And ultimately, if I need to leave the boat somewhere else, if the right decision is to do something that's incredibly life inconvenient, like having to divert to Nova Scotia, the Azores, Ireland, then I need to just do that, and I need to make that decision. But yeah, I do feel like I'm in that plane going out for a skydive at the moment. I'm scared of heights, a little bit sick, a little bit apprehensive. That's what it's all about.